You may be interested in tuning your Cadillac CTS VSport with the Trifecta Tune, or maybe you have another GM car that Trifecta supports and you're looking to get some extra horsepower. Well, today I'm going to show you how easy it is to install this tune to get strong, reliable horsepower out of your car. Up next. Now, before we get started, I want to state that this video is not sponsored by Trifecta, and I don't work for Trifecta, but I do like their product. But I'm doing this video as a service to the VSport community, as well as any other YouTubers out there that are interested in Trifecta tunes and learning about them. The Trifecta Tune is one of the most popular ways of getting more horsepower out of the Cadillac CTS VSport, and I labeled it the #1 mod for your 3rd gen Cadillac CTS. Now, Trifecta does make tunes for other GM platforms as well, and the tune is easy, reliable, and it makes this car feel amazing. I'm going to show you the steps to installing the tune just so you can see how easy it is, but be sure to stick around at the end because I'm going to answer a few frequently asked questions about warranty, reliability, as well as my discussion on the Trifecta tune versus maybe a custom Dyno tune. All right, let's get to it. Before I begin, here's a quick basic overview of how modern tuning works. The car's engine has numerous sensors and electronics for air, fuel, timing, boost, temperature, etc. All of this info from these sensors and control of some components are handled by the car's engine control module, or ECM, sometimes referred to as the ECU or PCM. In some cases, it may control the transmission as well, but in most cars these days, there's now a separate TCM or transmission control module. These modules communicate with one another in some ways. The modules have software and built-in data parameters that they abide by. You can imagine them as Excel spreadsheet tables or graphs. With inputs like temperature, air pressure, throttle input, and many other factors, the ECM makes decisions on how much fuel to send or when to make each spark plug spark, along with many other things, and this results in how the car drives. Modern tuning techniques involve using a computer program that reads these tables and graphs, allowing a tuner to edit the parameters so that the engine gives different results from stock. For example, a tuner can change the amount of turbo boost that the engine holds and when. Tuning can get complicated because there are many parameters and many of them depend on the others and vice versa. So to do the Trifecta tune, you'll need a laptop running Windows, a Mac is okay with Parallels or Boot Camp, and then you'll need the Trifecta cable, which comes in the mail. Now you just need to go buy your Trifecta tune. Go to trifectaperformance.com, click on the store link, and then pick your vehicle. In this example, I'm picking the VSport. You need to type in your VIN number, and what types of options you want for the VSport. Usually only starts in Tour or Sport mode, but you can allow it to start in other modes. Choose an intake if you have one, or just choose factory. Type in exhaust if you have one. And of course, fill out their how'd you hear about us survey. Add it to your cart and click checkout. You'll need to make a sign in, so do that. And then you'll get an email later that says that your calibration has been posted to your account. Click the link. Currently, I'm not signed in, so I'll sign in real quick. And here's our downloads. Here's your file for your tune. You'll always need to agree to the terms, of course. And I have a few files on record, so I'll download the one I want, save it in a place I can remember to find it. And then you need to go back to the downloads link and you need to download the Easy Flash software program. This is the program that loads the file from your computer to your car. Now you just wait patiently until you get your Trifecta cable in the mail. All right, before you get started with the tune, you need to adjust the sleep settings on your computer. For Windows, go to System, go to Power and Sleep, and just choose Never, because you don't want the computer to go to sleep while you're tuning. If you're doing this on a MacBook running Parallels, be sure to set the MacBook's settings. Now, go find your Trifecta Easy Flash program under the Start menu or wherever you saved it. And here's the app. You just need to accept the terms again. It's pretty simple. We've got the exit, we have program, which gives you a lot of options, including turning off certain warning lights, like if you got rid of your catalytic converters, you could do that. There's a data log. There's a code scanner in case you get a check engine light, and you can reset your check engine light if needed. But today we just need to use the program function and then program vehicle. Choose the file, and now it tells you to connect the interface cable and turn the ignition to on. So plug in the USB to your computer, and then the OBD port is down on your lower left side. Make sure the light is green on the cable. If it's red, it's not going to work. Now we need to put the car in the accessory mode. Don't just tap the button, you have to press and hold for 5 to 10 seconds until you get a green light. This will ensure the car doesn't shut off during the tuning process. Now go back to the laptop and hit OK now that you've connected the cable. It's going to ask you which calibration file you want, Trifecta or to go back to stock. Hit accept, confirm your VIN number, and accept the fact that you're about to begin tuning. Next, select transparency mode. I don't even know why this is an option. I feel like it should always be enabled, but basically it's to set it up so that the dealer can't detect your tune. Accept, and the tuning begins. Now I'll speed up the process. This should only take about 8 or 9 minutes. With the old red cable that they used to send, it would take maybe 15 to 20 minutes, but on a really slow computer, I've actually had it take up to an hour, which is a problem because your car's battery may not hold up that long. You can supervise it if you want, or go grab a drink. After about halfway through, you'll see some warning messages pop up on your dash, and then it'll begin the second part of the tuning, which I believe is the TCM tuning. As it finishes, you'll get a few more service messages on your dash, and then the tuning is done. Hit OK and close out the program. And now you can unplug your cables, start your car, and you're done. And be sure to put that Trifecta sticker on your car. It's good for at least another 5 or 10 horsepower. Hey, thanks for sticking around. That was pretty easy, right? And when you want to go back to stock, you just do the same procedure. You just choose the option for stock calibration. So now I want to talk about some frequently asked questions as well as the tuning options that are available for your Cadillac CTS VSport. Absolutely the most common question I see about the Trifecta Tune is, will this void my warranty? And well, it's complicated, but yes and no. First, you need to know that the Magnuson-Moss Act exists. And what that is it's a law that basically says that if you modify your car, the dealer can't void any warranty of a part that's not affected by the modification. Now, unfortunately, a tune to your car's ECM means that it touches a lot of parts of your car, but you know, your brakes and suspension are not voided by doing this kind of modification. The next thing is Trifecta has transparency mode, which is supposed to mean that the dealer can't identify that you've modified the ECM. Now, some other tuners in the world will argue that that isn't even possible to do, but Trifecta claims it's so. I'll let you decide. I personally believe that for the most part, the dealer won't notice, but I truly believe that when the dealer really wants to dig in there, they can find out. But they're never gonna do that unless there's a catastrophic failure of, say, your engine or your transmission. And I've yet to honestly see any of those happen, at least among the Facebook group people. But with that being said, even though they're unlikely to detect it, it's still smart to tune right back to stock, and I showed you how easy that can be, and then go to the dealer, and when you bring the car home, tune it back into the Trifecta mode. But with that being said, yes, there's always a risk, and as they say, you gotta pay to play. There's always risks of modifying your car, but I feel like it's a very low risk item. The next question I often see is, how does this affect the reliability of the car? I drive my car a lot, and you know, I don't want something to happen to it. Well, I can tell you that Trifecta developed this tune on their own cars, and they want a reliable car too. They didn't want to break it, and they have liability, right? And so this tune makes great horsepower and is reliable. I've had tunes on my car for over 40,000 miles, 20,000 with just the Trifecta, and I would say that with all the people that have this tune on their VSport, there's hundreds of thousands of miles driven, and I have yet to really hear any problems that were related to the Trifecta tune themselves. Will it wear out parts faster? Well, maybe, but you probably don't even know when those parts wear out in the first place. Either way, I drive my car at the drag strip, over 50 passes at the drag strip, lots of autocross. I've done a track day, and it's fine. And there's a lot of people out there that abuse their cars much more than I do on a daily basis, and no one's really had problems. So with reliability, I say it's fine. And with that being said, you're again unlikely to have any warranty issues because of that. But does the tune really make a difference in how the car feels? That question I see, and the answer is an absolute yes. You're getting over 70 peak horsepower gains at the wheels, which is nearly 100 horsepower at the crank. Just imagine having your car with an extra 100 horsepower. It makes a difference. And not only that, but the gains are throughout the power band, like at least 50 horsepower throughout the power band, as in from the stoplight, passing somebody on the highway, or holding the throttle down at 130 miles an hour. There's gonna be a difference. It definitely feels different. Plus, the transmission tuning Trifecta does means the shift points are different in the different modes, and you'll definitely notice those. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, I'm getting the Trifecta Tune and I have an appointment with my local dyno shop. That's a dynamometer, a device to test the car's horsepower. And I'm gonna go see what my car makes in horsepower stock, and then I'm gonna install the Trifecta Tune and see what it makes after. Well, before you do that, you need to know some important points. First of all, dyno numbers aren't everything. They don't necessarily represent the actual horsepower your car's making, because there's variances between different dynos. And if your buddy goes and puts his exact same car in a dyno and makes 400 horsepower, and you go to a different dyno and only make 380, does that mean that your car makes less horsepower? Not necessarily. It just means the dyno's calibrated sort of different. With that being said, if you're going to do a before and after test, the Trifecta Tune needs time to adjust to the fuel that's in your car and for all the parameters to sort of learn each other. And with that being said, it takes time. It could be a couple days, it could be a couple 100 miles of driving. I've had it learn as fast as one run down the drag strip, and then the next run, it had fully calibrated. So if you go to a dyno and you test your car's stock power and then you put the tune in and test it, you may not see the full effect of the Trifecta Tune, and you could be disappointed. So I would suggest doing it separate days, but try to keep the weather the same, because those kind of things can affect your outcomes. Also, just be focused on the gains, not the top number of horsepower you make. See how much horsepower is gained from the stock calibration to the Trifecta calibration. Next, I want to talk about the Trifecta Tune specifically on the Cadillac CTS V, as well as other tuning options and how tuning goes for the VSport. The VSport and the ATS V share similar engines and therefore a very similar ECM. This ECM is actually very unique in the industry, and it doesn't tune quite like the other ones do. Many tuners have tried and failed to tune either of the cars. Not only that, but the VSport is a little more difficult to tune because tuners can't get access to the transmission, because the VSport has a different transmission. It has an ASIN transmission, and the TCM is basically locked. Trifecta is the only company that claims to have access to it. Now, other tuners in the industry, they claim that that's a lie, and no one really knows for sure, probably only Trifecta does. Either way, the transmission is an obstacle. So if you want to go to your local tuner and get tuned, likely they're not going to be able to knock it out. I don't care if they've tuned 1,000 horsepower Corvettes and Ferraris and GTRs, this car is different. And because of that, even in the ATS-V community, where there's tons of people interested in performance, there's still only a few tuners out there that can do a good job, and most people have to get remotely tuned by those people. Now, that transmission module issue is important because the engine has a say in how much horsepower can be made, as well as the engine. So even if you can make the engine make 600 horsepower, but the transmission says, no, I'm only allowing 500 horsepower, all you're getting is 500 horsepower. So that obstacle is really important, especially with the VSport, and the ATS-Vs don't have that problem because they have a different transmission. Now, one statement I often see is, that Trifecta Tune is just a can tune. Nothing's better than a custom dyno tune. And at first I would say, yes, you're absolutely right. In most cases, when you've got a customized car with modifications, a custom dyno tune is where you want to be. You want somebody that can look at your car, run it on the dyno, make changes to your ECM, and then run it on the dyno again to see if there's any improvement, and do that process over and over again until they get a great tune. But even if you go to your custom tuner, and you've got a car, say a 2015 Camaro SS, they're probably just gonna grab a file from another 2015 Camaro SS that they've already tuned and throw that into your car and maybe make some additional little tweaks for a couple extra horsepower for the small idiosyncrasies that your car may have. But between the same year, make, and model, the cars are very consistent out of the factory, and I don't see a benefit there. But if you've got a combination of parts that very few other people have, then yeah, you want your tuner to really modify your car's ECM to work with those parts. And in the past, canned tunes have been maybe some device or something you plug in that adds some extra timing into your car, gets a little extra horsepower. It may not even been designed for that car. But the Trifecta Tune was developed over a lot of hours on the dyno, lots of driving on Trifecta employees' VSports themselves. So there's a lot of research and development there, and you don't get that with just a canned tune. I mean, people spent a serious amount of time making this tune work, and it's designed for a stock VSport. And because most cars are very similar out of the factory, it's fine and it does a great job. We've seen the results. But also, Trifecta can modify the tune for you. Say you want to get that ZZP intake. Well, you can install that, drive around, log the parameters of your car with Trifecta software, and send it over to them. They'll make tweaks, then you can re-upload it to your ECM, and it will make the car run maybe a little better. So in that sense, it's sort of a remote tune, which is what most ATS-Vs are tuned by anyway. So saying it's a canned tune is a little bit of an overstatement, I would say. Plus, you need to think about this. I'm one of the few people that have had custom dyno tuning. I thought, I don't want a canned tune. I don't want the Trifecta tune. It's boring. What if I want to make changes down the road? They said at the time they wouldn't make changes. And so I said, all right, I'm building my own custom intake. I'm adapting ATS-V downpipes to the VSport, and I'm going to get a custom tune to make that all work together. And I did, and it worked out. Even though they couldn't tune the transmission, they still made almost the same amount of horsepower that a Trifecta tune made. But over time, I was seeing that my car wasn't making much more horsepower, and I felt, wow, I spent all that money and complication to get what I could have just ordered and plugged into my car, and it would have been fine. And so with that, I eventually went back to Trifecta's tune because A, I don't have parts on my car that might be less reliable, say, than OEM. I have catalytic converters again, which means I can pass smog test, and I have control over putting the tune in and out. My tuner was a couple of hours away, and it wasn't easy to just run over to him and get my tune pulled out, and I didn't want to go buy extra software. The Trifecta Tune is designed for people that want life simple. You don't have to learn complex software, you don't have to learn how to tune, and you're still getting good results. But it's not really designed for somebody that wants to go super big and turn this into a drag car. So what if you are that person that says, oh, this car's got lots of potential, I want to turn it into a... What are you gonna do? Well, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people say that, and many of those people have already left the VSport platform. But I'm really hoping that one day we're gonna see somebody go big with the car. The truth is, most people that have a VSport just want a performance sedan. They're not going all out to make a race car, and that's okay. And the Trifecta Tune isn't really meant to go beyond that. However, there's people out there that have tried to go a little bigger with meth or E85 and other modifications, but honestly, we haven't really heard any results from them, and when the radio's silent, all I can assume is that maybe there weren't any good results. I would think they would post positive results, right? But there is hope right now for the old VSport to make more power. Somebody is actually taking the dive to install ATS-V turbos in the VSport, and that's the primary difference between the power outputs of the ATS-V versus the VSport. So hopefully the car should make at least as much power as a tuned ATS-V. And Trifecta is helping with that, thankfully, because they've got to tune the transmission, of course, with it. And the results aren't in yet. And Trifecta has always said, well, if you go beyond our Trifecta tune power, the transmission's going to start to slip and it's going to be a problem. Thankfully, this owner is like, I don't care, I'll blow up the transmission, I need to find the limitations. And I'm really glad that he's going to do that. So wait until we have results and see how this pans out before you go out and try to buy ATS-V turbos, because we know it works, we just don't know how long it works for. But what if the transmission does blow? What's the next option? The next option is, well, maybe to rebuild the ACEN transmission stronger, but then you still have those tuning issues that only Trifecta can deal with, right? The other option is maybe to move an ATS-V or CTS-V transmission in there, the Hydromatic 8L90, which can be tuned, and Trifecta can work with them on that too. And that transmission is already shown to hold lots of horsepower. So that will probably be the next step, but unless you want to risk your transmission, wait and see what happens, but I sure am excited. All right, thanks so much for watching this episode on installing the Trifecta Tune and having a chat with me about tuning for the VSport. I'm sure you have comments, so be sure to leave them below and we can talk some more about it. If you like this video, show me by hitting the like button and be sure to subscribe. Also, hit the bell to be notified when my next video comes out. Thanks so much for watching the Jeff Violi channel. I'll see you next time.